Hall of Fame results came in last night. We're ripping about it. We're talking about it. So first, let's talk Carlos Beltran, Hall of Famer. That's sick. He's well-deserved there. A lot of times it's coming up with his name comes a controversy with the whole Astro scandal. Remember, he was a big ringleader in that in 2017. Didn't really affect too much of his Hall of Fame voting as a player, you have to imagine. Maybe it's different because he's a player coach at that time rather than like a player who was a big part. But regardless, you got to kind of look at that scandal and think, did it really play that big of a deal in how we looked at Carlos Beltran as a Hall of Famer? It obviously made a difference when it came to being the manager for the New York Mets. He got fired very fastly there. But like again, when it comes to his career, he is a Hall of Famer. He played 20 seasons, 70 WAR. You're looking at a guy with a 280 average, 435 home runs, guys. That guy was bopping, 9-time All-Star, 3-time Gold Glove, and he was a postseason legend. Let's be real. Everyone remembers that Houston run where he got dealt at the deadline to Houston and balled out, tied, or had the home run record for the most home runs in a single postseason in 2004, or no, it might have been 2005. Regardless, amazing run that he had there. Yeah, because they lost to the White Sox that year. Sorry, regardless. But he batted .307 with a 1.021 OPS in 65 postseason games. That dude was a stud. 16 home runs in those postseason games total. Electric player. Over that long of a season, or over that long of a career, you got to imagine that looks like a Hall of Famer. Only 4 seasons where he had less than an 800 OPS when he played full seasons. That is a Hall of Famer. He felt like it the whole way with that length of a career. Good for him. 4th ballot he got on. So that brings me to Andrew Jones. You're looking at a guy who got on his 9th ballot. I think that's crazy talk, honestly, when you're looking at what he did over his career. So his counting numbers aren't the most impressive, so 62.7 WAR, 8 lower than Beltran, 434 home runs. Here's where it really comes into, this is really becomes a big argument for him. 10 consecutive Gold Gloves in center field. He is viewed as one of the best, if not the best center fielder that we've seen. Willie Mays had 12 Gold Gloves in center field. But like, dude, that guy was hawking down balls, an insane center fielder. But it wasn't like he was just a great outfielder, guys. He had sauce. He was hitting home runs and home runs and home runs. Again, 434 over his career, but over his 10-year peak, guys, if we look at what he did, it's better than Carlos Beltran. Maybe you look at the overall numbers of what Beltran did, his OPS plus a little bit higher, a little less on the counting stance for Beltran. But like, again, Beltran might have been a better hitter by a little bit. I wouldn't say by a lot, but a little bit. But man, was Andrew Jones insane defensively out there. So you're doing that while hitting home runs. He never had less than 26 home runs in that 10-year span that we're looking at right there. So you got a guy who's at least pumping 26 to 35. He had a year with 51 and 128 RBIs in that 10-year span while he's leading the National League in D-WAR. He led it in 98, 2000, 2001, and 2002. So you're talking about a guy just balling on defense, hitting 20 to 30 jacks a year. What else do you want from your center fielder? I mean, like, really, like, this guy was like a Hall of Famer, no doubt. I can't believe he only got in on his 9th ballot. That's insane when you look at the 10-year peak that Andrew Jones had. Absolutely incredible. So now let's bop to some of the other guys that are on this ballot. So if we look at the results here are the 2 names for me. I'm gonna start in this category and be like, these 2 guys will be Hall of Famers. Feel very confidently about these guys. Number 1, let's start out with Chase Utley. So in his 2nd year on the ballot, so last year, he had 39% of the vote. This year, in his 3rd year on the ballot, 59% of the vote. So you're looking at about a 20% clip of uptick. He's trending towards the Hall of Fame, no doubt. Again, you have to hit that 75 marker. He needs 15% more next year to get in. And with next year's ballot, guys, being pretty weak, with the strongest guy being probably Buster Posey, 2nd being John Lester, I don't think it's they're gonna steal a lot of votes away from Chase Utley. He will be a Hall of Famer in 2027. Good for Chase Utley, and that opens up some cans of worms too. If he's getting in, what does that mean for other people too? So then we'll get to that. The second guy that really, to me, is going to be a Hall of Famer is Felix Hernandez. So this was his 2nd year on the ballot. So last year he had 20.6% of the vote, which is going to be was the same exact number that Dustin Pedroia got on his 2nd year on the ballot. So I'm going to flash forward to that. But again, Felix Hernandez, Went from 20.6% to this year, 46.1%. That's 25% jump. Huge jump. So you got to imagine next year with that weaker ballot, I don't know if it's next year, but Felix Hernandez, King Felix, will be a Hall of Famer. Now, moving on to more of a category, I guess, for these guys is like, will they be Hall of Famers? They feel like Hall of Famers. Not entirely sure, but I would assume they're probably going to make it as well. Again, let's start with, actually, I want to start with a more of an intriguing one. This one, I think, is going to come down to the wire. I don't know if he will. If it continues the way it is, it looks like he will be. Andy Pettitte. Okay, so last year, he had 27.9% of the vote on his 7th year on the ballot. Now on his 8th year, 48.5%. He jumped 20%. So if you put that together, this is his 8th year. Next year is his 9th. If he jumps that same clip, he's looking at 68%, roughly. 69, nice, maybe 67. But regardless, he's going to be right there knocking on the doorstep. In his 10th year, you got to imagine he would get in at that clip. So looking like it, which don't get me started on that. Don't get me started on that. If we're going to punish steroid users for what they did, but then Andy Pettitte, who was admittedly on HGH, got popped for it, and he's going to make it, what are we doing? I just don't see where that makes any sense. Where if we look at, obviously, Manny and A-Rod and Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, all of these guys who were caught, it's a different argument. It's a different look, weirdly enough, huh? I don't know why it's different, but it's totally different on how we look at it. But a guy who came clean and was like, hey, I did it, I'm a nice guy, he gets the credit. So if he makes the Hall of Fame, that is going to be one hell of a topic. But it looks like he's probably trending that way. Pretty crazy if you look at it. Another name that looks like to be well on his way to making the Hall of Fame, Cole Hamels. So in his first year on the ballot, 23.8%. Again, we're looking at Felix had 20% on his first year, jumped the second year. And again, with that weak ballot coming up in 27, you got to imagine another jump is happening. He's got 1,800 hits, really good career, really good long career. So it feels like he would be a Hall of Famer. He is trending very much in that direction. Another name, this is one where we kind of flash back to Dustin Pedroia. He was 11.9% in his first year. In his second year, now he's at 20.7%. A pretty good jump right there. Let's see how it pans out. Again, Andrew Jones, who just made the Hall of Fame, was 19.4% on his third ballot. So Petey way ahead of that. Don't get me started, guys. I just think I don't like the way the Hall of Fame is trending. It feels like we're letting in more of these fringe guys. And like I said, Andy Pettitte, Cole Hamels, the counting numbers are there, I guess. You got to kind of look at pitchers differently. But for me, Dustin Pedroia, who's going to get in pretty easily, is a weird one to me. Is a weird one to me. He's a favorite in Boston, but injury shortened career, basically had 10 good years. I wouldn't say that he was amazing for those 10. He had, I think, four MVP vote seasons where he received votes 1 through 25. Obviously, he had the MVP, but I don't feel like he passes what I would view as a Hall of Famer. He had a good peak, but it wasn't like a full career, and it wasn't like a peak like where we talk about Andrew Jones. If we compare it to that, where it's like he was the best defensive player and was still providing a ton in the lineup. PD, good hitter. Was he a great hitter? I don't know. Was he a great fielder? I don't know. He was pretty good at both. Very good at both. Very, very good. A very good player. But that's, again, where we're at. Are we going to just let all of the very good guys in? I made a video, make sure to check it out, about Jim Edmonds and what he got screwed with, right? If we're going to talk about pretty gooders, there's Jim Edmonds. He's a pretty gooder. You're talking about a guy with a career 900 OPS, played 17 full seasons, lots of baseball, counting numbers are there, 393 home runs, 60 WAR, great outfielder, 8 gold gloves in center field. Didn't even make it past the first ballot. I have an issue with that not for that being off the ballot, and Pettitte looking like he's going to have a quick and easy way to the Hall of Fame. And want to know why? Only because of the ballots. Only because of the ballots is that possible. Jim Edmonds came in on the 2016 ballot that is full 1 through 19 of just Hall of Fame guys or scandal guys or controversy guys. So two totally different ballots. But one's going to get on just because the ballot is weak and we're bored. But Jim Edmonds gets punished because he's on the greatest ballot of all time. That sucks to me. That really does. And I kind of like the baseball the way it is, where it's really freaking hard to get in the Hall of Fame. It's really hard. I like that part of baseball. It's an honor to be a Hall of Famer. These Hall of very good guys, we'll always have a soft spot in our hearts, but there's a level that you have to cross to be a Hall of Famer. And for me, I don't think Pettitte is that. Another guy, David Wright. I don't know if he's trending in the right direction. He had 8.1% his last year, his second year. He has 14.8 now. With that, guys, I think he's probably not going to make it. He's not trending in the right direction, not fast enough. Who knows? You could have a huge uptick this next year because of this weak ballot. Don't know if he's going to get in, but he's on that cusp, right? He's on that cusp. Cole Hamels, Pettitte probably getting in. Pettitte probably getting in at this rate. Yuck! Don't get me cooking down that. I just, oh man. So let's look at the other PEDs, steroid guys. Obviously, a totally different element how these two guys handled their PED suspensions, etc. Manny Ramirez got popped twice. It's hard to fight for Manny. Even though he might be the greatest right-handed hitter that we've seen, Aaron Judge might be competing for that, Pujols might be competing for that, but look at some numbers on Manny Ramirez. Maybe the greatest right-handed hitter that we've ever laid eyes on. And he finishes his 10th year with being 38.8%. He's off the ballot. He's going to be put on in the Veterans Committee, but can you imagine? He's probably not going to make it. The other guy, A-Rod, probably a top 5 talent in baseball history. He is at 40.5% or 40% in his 5th year on the ballot. His first year, you might look like, 40%, he needs 75, he's in his 5th year, he's probably going to make it, right? His year 1, he was at 34%. Because typically people who are voting for these guys, they have the same view on day 1 as they do 10 years from now on the steroid users. Because if they're the same writers, they're going to have the same opinion on the steroids. That's not going to change via the ballot, likely. So A-Rod's probably gone too. So that's just the biggest gripe I have with all of this. If Andy Pettitte gets in, that feels like just such a double-sided way to look at this. It's similar to David Ortiz. Funny enough, the only allegations that basically damn Sammy Sosa are the same allegations that are the same allegations that are just looked over with David Ortiz. They're both on the Mitchell report, the anonymous report that they were on, that both of their names were on it. Obviously, Sammy Sosa looked at it a little bit differently. Want to know why? Because he was Sammy Sosa. We didn't really know David Ortiz at that point. I think a lot of times as steroid users, we only punish the people at the tippity top. Was Andy Pettitte at the tippity top? I don't think so. So you're going to punish Barry Bonds because he broke these great, amazing records and was the best player to ever live because of these allegations, because of these steroids. But, Andy Pettitte's steroids weren't as potent, right? His HGH wasn't as important because he wasn't the greatest pitcher on earth. But Roger Clemens is going to get suspended for the same thing. Or maybe it was how they handle it. They were just douchebags to writers. And they were mean people. They weren't nice people. So nice people don't make the Hall of Fame. Come on now. That's where we're getting into this weird territory. And I think Andy Pettitte would open up a weird Pandora's box. But yet again, I thought that about David Ortiz. But everyone kind of just batted an eye at it. And he was a first ballot Hall of Famer as a DH. Obviously, the talent of David Ortiz is Hall of Fame. I'm not questioning that at all. I'm talking strictly on the allegations and steroids that damn so many of these amazing players that obviously, as you can tell by this video, I have a gripe with not being in the Hall of Fame or at least not being recognized in the Hall in some way, shape, or form, even though they are some of the best players or the best players we've ever seen, I should say. So that's my thought there. It'll be interesting next year. Obviously, next year, if we look forward to it, we have Buster Posey, we have John Lester as the two big names on this. Posey has a shot. Posey has a real shot, I think, especially if we're looking at the ballot getting weaker and weaker. Posey has a real shot. I think John Lester's probably a longer shot, just because the peak wasn't as peaky as you want from a Hall of Famer. But yet again, Cole Hamels gets in. John Lester just got in with, or just hit the 200 win mark. Maybe that carries him some extra weight. And I love John Lester. But I feel like that's another fringe guy on the Hall of Very Good. But it feels like this Hall of Very Good list just kind of keeps swaying. But it's weird. The Hall of Very Gooders in the early 2000s aren't going to make the Hall of Fame. But the Hall of Very Gooders in the 2010 to 2025 range are going to make it. It's weird for me. Let me know your thoughts, guys. But again, make sure you're commenting, liking, subscribing to the BSBLR Show. Lots more cool content hitting you. Make sure you follow us on all of our platforms, Instagram, TikTok, X, all of the stuff. Make sure you do that. Thanks again for tuning in, guys.